Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Hi Krishna, welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast with myself, Gopal Roy, and we have back to Ben here.
Hi Krishna.
And back to Charlie in the studio audience, where we go, so this podcast we go deep into understanding the Vedic literature or the wisdom literature of India, to go deep into spiritual topics and understand the legacy that the great sages of the past have left us. If you're new tuning in, then we welcome you. You can really tune in at any time. And
yeah, we're reading Sri Upanishad.
That's it, yeah.
I just picked it up, and it actually says on the back, the Sanskrit words Sri Upanishad mean the knowledge that brings one nearer to the Supreme Person, Krishna, which is exactly what we discussed last time in episode 3, wasn't it? We got into introducing like different types of authority and how, you know, all of the different schools of Vedic thought accept Krishna as the ultimate authority, the impersonalists and the Vaishnavas alike.
See on the back, I've got a different Sri Upanishad here, and it says something else. Have you read the back of this one?
No, it looks old school though.
You haven't read the back of this one. This is interesting as well. This impersonalism has robbed our lives of dimension. Biochemists calmly inform us that our thoughts, feelings, and our very consciousness are simply patterns of electronic impulses that flash briefly in the vast void of space and time.
Damn.
But something deep within us refuses to be analysed into lifeless displays of energy. At the centre of our being is a focus of consciousness that is itself evidence of a higher reality. That's amazing. And it goes further on, but anyway, so we're just reading the introduction. We haven't even got onto the mantras yet of Sri Upanishad. Shall I start reading? Carry on?
Yeah, we might as well just jump in.
Let's just dive in and start swimming around. This Krishna consciousness movement is completely authorized from Vedic principles. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the actual aim of Vedic research, Vedic means this ancient spiritual knowledge that was given to society, millennia ago. So, actual aim of Vedic research is to find out Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita, it is also stated, Krishna, Govinda, has innumerable forms, but they're all one. They're not like our forms, which are fallible. His form is infallible. My form has a beginning, but his form has no beginning. It is Ananta. And his form, so many multi-forms, has no end. My form is sitting here, and not in my apartment. You are sitting there, and not in your apartment. But Krishna can be everywhere at one time. He can sit down in Goloka Vrindavan, and at the same time, he is everywhere, all-pervading. He is original, the oldest, but whenever you look at a picture of Krishna, you'll find a young boy, 15 or 20 years old. You'll never find an old man. You have seen pictures of Krishna as a charioteer from the Bhagavad Gita. At that time, he was not less than 100 years old. He had great-grandchildren, but he looked just like a boy. Krishna, God, never becomes old. That is his supreme power. So he's not the God that we imagine of having a big beard, but rather Krishna is Prabhupada explaining the conception of the supreme, at least coming from the East, is the supreme conscious, all-attractive being sort of thing that's beyond time and space.
Yeah,
full of sweetness and
because I heard something about that, how these different conceptions of God are based on like sort of owning a piece of the information. Like you hear that Krishna is the oldest person, so you just assume he's got like a long beard and
imagine he ages like everyone else.
Yeah, but just because he's the oldest doesn't mean he's like...
He's the oldest, and at the same time he's the most attractive. He's the most youthful and the most oldest at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't... We're dealing with spiritual energy here. Spiritual energy here, folks. Okay, so that is his supreme power. And if you want to search out Krishna by studying the Vedic literature, then you will be baffled. It may be possible, but it is very difficult. You can very easily learn about him from his devotee. His devotee can deliver him to you. Here he is, take him. That is the potency of Krishna's devotee. That's because to understand the Vedic or wisdom literature of India, there's a certain method. Like you get that with standard textbooks. They tell you the method by which to read the book. So similarly, Bhagavad Gita and Vedic literature, they say to understand this book, you have to approach it through teachers who know the science already, sort of thing.
It's kind of like like we're trying to conceive of Krishna, who's like pretty much inconceivable, but there's a method to conceive of him in a way.
Yeah, and it's done through a chain of love.
But yeah, and it's like it says the only way you can learn is from his devotees, because the devotees have learned to be able to conceive of him. It's like kind of if you're like a blind man, and you're asking for a description of something. Do you know, there's some kind of like something like that going on. Like we can't see Krishna, but like in the last podcast we talked about guru and this concept of someone who's understood. They have seen and they can explain it. They can explain it to you. Yeah. So it's like we need to use someone else's eyes to get to the point. I don't know. It's something along those lines. Like yeah. It's someone who understands, can explain. Yeah. Someone who's been to Swansea can tell you how to get there and tell you what it's like there, and then you follow their guidance, and then you'll get to Swansea yourself. Yeah. And then you'll be able to tell someone else how to get to Swansea. Exactly, yeah. You've seen the path. It's that kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah, and also even a bit deeper is also because Krishna is the supreme reservoir of all love and all loving relationships. Those who are in love with Krishna, in love with the spiritual nature of all beings, they have the power to infect people with the same love. Because just like, if I wanted to know the Queen, but I couldn't get to her, but if I know someone who knows her, then they could introduce me, sort of thing. So it's like that. It's based on relationship. As you find that, as beings, our most important thing to us generally is relationships. Yeah, sure. We all want to find someone to love. We especially want to be loved. So that's the nature of the soul. So therefore, these loving relationships can be expanded in relationship to Krishna, and then telling everyone else about Krishna. That's the way it works. Yeah, you can't. It's like with any kind of relationship, you can't just really go in cold. It's always better if you have that introduction from someone who knows the person. Yeah. They can break the ice for you. And it's not like, can you introduce me to that, that girl over there? Yeah. Like a wingman, isn't it? Yeah, so we need a wingman. So these gurus are like Krishna's wingman, or like our wingmen towards towards Krishna. It's the way. Yeah, it's the way to get there. That's what we were talking about, though. How like we naturally have this desire to love from. Yeah, we have a propensity to love, and everyone has a propensity to love. We don't think like who thinks that I have a loving propensity. Generally I've heard like women will admit it more readily than men. Apparently, I admit I have a propensity to love, and as generally blokes are a bit more like every man's an island. You know what I mean? Yeah. But actually, we all have a propensity to love something, and everyone really hankers after be loved. And we kind of express that love in different ways, like you see someone, maybe they don't have any people in their life, but they have a dog or a cat or like or they collect stamps or something. You gotta they channel that love. They're always trying to like sort of serve something, to love something. Yeah, you naturally want to outreach into this world and to be loved. But that's I was watching this documentary yesterday about it was about social media. Oh yeah, and the amount of I got the stat actually on my phone, but like for example, I think something like if you were born somewhere around 1995, 1996, you've grown up with social media through like secondary school, and it's extremely damaging to one's psychology. I remember I had Bebo. Did you ever have Bebo? No, I was never into. I had MySpace. Oh, is it? Oh, you
But even then, I didn't do it because I was
Yeah.
just.
Bieber was quite creative. You could anyway. Sorry, you just completely.
Yeah, I mean,
you confirmed the point.
what's that? I just MSN chat. That's what I mean,
MSN
mate.
Messenger.
Yeah, that's it. MSN Messenger.
That's a relic of the past now.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Hotmail.
That's it. Yeah.
We're
that was
aging ourselves like old men.
Yeah, but that's now. So it's Generation Z. I think they're bracketed as have this like, I think suicides now from. When we just get the statistics, but this sort of need for being appreciated and actually like you're putting yourself out there to be judged by hundreds if not thousands of people, and you're really looking for some sort of like
some validation, some adoration.
Yeah, so that's it. Look, so since in 2009, which is when social media has become available on people's mobiles, from there's a huge increase in so this is in suicide rates from the ages of from girls from the ages of 15 to 19. It increased 70% as soon as social media became available on phones, and suicide rate among girls from the ages of 10 to 14 increased by 150%.
It's terrible.
You got kids just committing suicide. It's really like hospital admissions in the US for self-harming increased by 190% in girls from the ages of 10 to 14 just because of social media. So it's this propensity to actually love and be loved when on the material platform, it doesn't work because the soul is not the body. So if you're looking for
it's like channeled into this completely artificial channel. Like you might get 1,000 likes, but it's not the same as, I don't know, like your mum making you a meal, or like the reciprocation of social media. Yeah,
it's all so shallow.
Yeah, but when you actually channel that love towards the correct source, or like the source of all of that love, which is the reciprocation is just something you can real taste,
and going deeper into space, even just between one person and another. If what we love about people in real relationships is actually the soul, the person. If when someone dies, you're just left with the dead body, but something's missing that was very much there before, that you had a relationship with, and now it's gone. So this sort of relationships on a deeper level is very much needed at the minute, especially if you buy in this worldview, as we read it earlier, like you're just a bunch of like chemicals and neurons, you're just a bag of chemicals walking around. Then okay, well, what, my girlfriend is just a bunch of chemicals, or my husband or my child is just a ball of chemicals that I happen to be related with. But then where's real love then? On a material platform you can't have real love.
Yeah, and we know ourselves, like, deep down, that there's more to it than just those chemicals. It's like the light that's shining those chemicals on. You know, like you said, like a lump of a dead body there's something missing.
Yeah, you get this. You got a bag of skin, you got a bit of bones in there, you got some pus, blood, urine. You tie a little knot on it, put a mustache on and some hair, and hey, you've got a person. But no, there's much more to it than that. Is that okay, Charlie? Got my canary?
Yeah, it's good.
You got the canary in the house.
I don't know if we're on a.
So
further away from the mic.
You what?
A little bit further away.
Charlie's playing up again.
Should kick him out. Check out that window.
Charlie, you're fired. I don't know, maybe we went off track. Should we carry on?
No, it was good. I think it's important, like, to talk about love.
Yeah, I mean, that documentary blew my mind. Like, it was talking about you could just see how psychologically everyone has just been completely brainwashed.
What was the documentary, in case people are curious?
I think it was called The Social Dilemma.
Yeah, my dad's been talking about it. How, like, sort of these social.
I think it won some awards and stuff. I think it's
it's probably well known.
Yeah,
it's just but yeah, like these social media companies are like really trying to capture us and manipulate us and turn us into a commodity in one way.
Yeah,
right?
well, you already are a commodity just by being on there.
Mm.
You know, that's the thing. If you don't have to pay for a product,
Mm.
they say that means you are the product.
Yeah.
And rather than just our attention being the product, where they're actually selling our behavior being changed to people, they're engineering people's behavior in such a way that, you know, it's sort of like making you do what they want, go in the direction that they want you to go, you know. So it's quite
Sinister.
yeah, but sinister in a way that the people who created it didn't actually intend for it to be so sinister. It's just the nature of these algorithms that the
Yeah.
computers come up with is that it naturally just it's built in a very effective way, so effective that the people who created the algorithms don't understand how profoundly it works.
Yeah.
And these computers are made to use your psychology in order to keep your attention dragged into the social media machine. You know.
I guess it's like very impersonal, isn't it? Like a machine doesn't see, because this is what
and it
this
doesn't
is,
know what's right and what's wrong.
That's
It
the
doesn't know
problem
what's
there.
true and what's not true. So it has no way of telling these things. So it just uses just pure,
Yeah.
takes you down a rabbit hole, and it knows like, oh, you're losing attention now, so it props up little things
Yeah.
to grab your attention. It knows how long you look at a picture. It knows all the videos you've watched. It builds this huge psychological profile, and then is used to.
But it's kind of like a metaphor of, you know, like we said, we're more than this body, we're that spark. And the body is just like atoms. But like this machine, this algorithm, this code, this hasn't got that spark of consciousness in it. So it doesn't know how to empathize. It doesn't have that empathy. It doesn't have that ability to tell right from wrong, like you said.
Yeah.
And in that way, because we leave it in the hands of that matter operating by itself without the spark of consciousness, then it goes down that sinister path and causes so many problems in the world, you know.
Yeah.
Like this is I guess the crux of it is like really we should rely on the soul in people rather than the matter. We should see we should.
Yeah, we're starting to get to a level now where we're getting matter to dictate how we live our lives, just because the fact these algorithms, which is why a lot of these sort of the people who came up with these things in the first place are starting to raise the flag, you know, the warning, and say, look, you know, there's something really we're heading in the wrong direction here.
Yeah, it's proper sci-fi, isn't it? Like.
Yeah, they say, you know, people are looking for the time when computers rule the world. They're saying it already is like that. You know?
Yeah.
The way these, whether we use this on a podcast, I don't know, but whether we, the way, like now they're saying American politics, for example, is the most divided it's been in terms of what Democrat, Republican, or even in this country you can see sort of conservative, Labour. You know, and it's happened because of social media. Because the way it works is that if you're into a certain topic, then it'll start to show you everything to do with that topic.
It's confirmation bias, right?
Yeah, and it won't give you anything that disagrees with what you think, because if they get you into a headspace where you think everyone agrees with you, then you're very easily manipulated. So what they're saying is it's blocking off this dialogue that would normally happen between different sort of political ideas, sort of thing, and this dialogue is now non-existent, and the chasm between different parties is just being increased by this social media so much that some of these people who were previous CEOs of Twitter and Facebook and stuff are actually generally scared of a proper civil war because of these things.
It's the problem with the internet is like you can find a group of people that believe the same thing as you, and then you're just in an echo chamber. You're all just repeating the same thing to each other. Then you get, because you're being confirmed from around, it's confirmation bias, and then you have these completely separate. Whereas like a more natural system would be you're all in like a kind of a smaller like village or community, and there'll be all of these differences there, and you have to sort of conversate to work out the differences rather than just confirm what's the, you know, like it's just like a very unnatural to make a global society isn't natural for our like our what do you call it? like our makeup.
I guess our constitution. A lot of governments were using this sort of technology and this ability in, you know, I think one country was using it to do huge Muslim genocide, you know. It was really really dark, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So this dialogue needs to be opened, Which is why it's very healthy to hear, these sort of another world paradigm, another world view that incorporates a spiritual nature that's presented in the, these Vedic literatures of India.
Originally, there was only one Veda, and there was no necessity of reading it. People were so intelligent and had such sharp memories that by once hearing from the lips of the spiritual master, they would understand. They would immediately grasp the whole purport. But 5,000 years ago, Vyasadeva put the Vedas into writing for the people in this age, Kali Yuga. He knew eventually the people would be short-lived and their memories would be very poor. Their intelligence would not be very sharp.
That's because we have the idea that when people started to write things down is when people became intelligent.
Yeah.
So the Vedic view is now, when you had to write things down, it means you're becoming less intelligent. Like, who's smarter, someone who can work out a calculation in their brain, or someone who has to use a calculator?
Yeah, for sure. And that's what people are saying, like, people are not as smart as they used to be because they're putting all their intelligence in their phones. Like, that's their source of intelligence is Google. Yeah. Google Maharaj.
Hey Siri.
Hey Siri. So yeah, it's like, it seems like we're becoming more advanced by being more technically advanced, but actually we're becoming less advanced because we're doing less ourselves. Like, our consciousness is becoming less advanced in that sense.
Becoming more reliant on the machines. Like, people, like, I can't, people used to read maps and stuff, now we just use Google Maps. People used to read books, now I went to a social media, they were teaching us something to do with, like, how to use social media in an institution sort of thing. And she was saying that the average person now has less of an attention span than a goldfish. Like, it's just a couple of seconds. Like, people, when they're flicking through their social media feed or whatever, they have very short attention span. Even like if there's a write-up that's going to take, that's a few paragraphs, they're like, I'm not going to read that, and just flick through, people are becoming very...
Yeah, it's like the machines are moulding us, isn't it? I know the theme of this podcast, like...
it's dark, like, it's could have been...
We've got to have a dark one.
Sometimes I go into this rabbit hole. I got more, but we'll see.
No, but it's quite interesting, though. Imagine, like, being able to hear something once and then remember it forever. Like, my memory personally is like a sieve. Like, you have to constantly reiterate it, which is like that's why it's important to, like, keep hearing this spiritual subject matter, because it keeps reiterating these, like, more elevated conceptions, because otherwise you could easily just constantly be stuck on a scroll lock, just scrolling on your phone all day.
Yeah, and that's the principle as well. Is if you want to remember something, write it down. The material world is so charged with forgetfulness. So if you want to remember something, write it down. If you have a good, that's a good realization, then write things down. Writing things down is really powerful. It's like a check and balance. See where you want your life to go. What are your goals for the day. Where we have something called a gratitude journal, where you write something you're grateful for every day. Writing is a powerful tool we can use to as a scaffolding, as a framework for us who we want to be, as we go through life. Yeah, writing's important.
Yeah, you can cement your thoughts and intentions, like, you can put them down, and then you can because you might have an awesome thought and then suddenly you see something else and then pop, it's gone. Yeah, it's good to write stuff down.
Where are we? Therefore, let me teach. This is a quote, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, let me teach this Vedic knowledge in writing. He divided the Vedas into 4: Rig, Sama, Atharva, and Yajur. Then he gave the charge of these Vedas to his different disciples. So they're talking about Vyasadeva, right, who's the author of the Vedic literature. He then thought of the less intelligent class of men, Stri, Sundra, and Dvijabandhu. He considered the women class and the Sudra class, or the worker class, and Dvijabandhu. Dvijabandhu refers to those who are born in a high family but who are not properly qualified. So here, this is making the point that this is exactly what this great sage Vyasadeva saw in the future, that in the future everyone's going to be proper, like, spiritual special needs, you know?
Yeah.
All the men, all the women, we're all going to be just unable to have the same sort of caliber of mental faculty that they used to have in times gone by. So Dvija Bandhu refers to those who are born in a high family but who are not properly qualified. A man who is born in the family of a Brahmana but is not qualified as a Brahmana is called Dvija Bandhu. For these persons he compiled the Mahabharata, called the History of India, and the 18 Puranas. These are all part of the Vedic literature. The Puranas, the Mahabharata, the 4 Vedas, and the Upanishads. The Upanishads are part of the Vedas. Then Vyasadeva summarized all Vedic knowledge for scholars and philosophers in what is called the Vedanta Sutra. This is the last word of the Vedas. So that's a very technical history of where these sort of literatures come from. You know. Do you know? Carry on reading?
Yeah. Do you want me to carry on?
Yeah.
Why not? Innit? Vyasadeva personally wrote the Vedanta Sutra under the instructions of Narada, his Guru Maharaj, or his spiritual master. But still, he was not satisfied. It's a long story described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, like, Srimad Bhagavatam is the kind of the cream of the Vedas, right? It's one of the main books that we read.
Yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam is awesome.
Yeah, it's nectar.
Nectar, yeah. My back's killing you.
Is it?
Yeah. I got this, like, I don't think my posture is very good, you know.
Mine's woeful.
My lower back. It was my arms for the last couple of weeks. Like, I've got my shoulders are clicking everywhere and stuff. And yeah, and this morning my lower back. So I just got a message from Vampsy saying that try the Alexander technique. He's giving me like a teacher and stuff. But apparently Alexander technique is you have your body in the way it's meant to be or something. Apparently it was.
I don't know.
Anyway, we'll find out.
I don't know nothing.
So Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedavyasa is not very satisfied.
Even after compiling many Puranas and Upanishads, and even after writing the Vedanta Sutra, then his spiritual master Narada instructed him, "You explain the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta means ultimate knowledge, and the ultimate knowledge is Krishna. Krishna says that throughout the Vedas, one has to understand him. Vedaischa sarve aham eva vedyaha." Krishna also says, "Vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham." I am the compiler of Vedanta Sutra and I am the knower of the Vedas. Therefore, the ultimate objective is Krishna. That's explained in all the Vaishnava commentaries on Vedanta philosophy.
And just to recap, those who don't understand who Krishna is that supreme, absolute spiritual principle that everything material and spiritual comes from. So this is to find out the ultimate, zenith of knowledge. The topmost aspect of knowledge is Krishna, which means the source of everything, spiritual and material.
Eternal conscious source.
Yeah.
We Gaudiya Vaishnavas have our own commentary on Vedanta philosophy called Govinda Bhashya.
By Baladev Vidyabhushan.
Similarly, Ramanujacharya has a commentary and Madhvacharya has one. The version of Shankaracharya is not the only commentary. There are many Vedanta commentaries, but because the Vaishnavas did not present the first Vedanta commentary, but people are under the wrong impression that Shankaracharya is the only Vedanta commentary. So this is quite technical, right? And it's talking about different lines, like different lines of thought, is it? On the Vedanta, on the Vedas?
Yeah, so all the ancient sort of transcendentalists and scholars of India, people like Hinduism, for example, so people have this, you have different religions, you have Catholicism and you have Christianity, you have Islam and you have Hinduism and Buddhism. But really Hinduism is very vast. It's like when people say Hinduism, what you're really referring to is this huge umbrella, and under this umbrella is a lot of different people who follow a lot of different ways of spiritual advancement and enlightenment. But they all take these Vedic literatures as a type of authority.
Yeah. That's why they have like similar kind of aesthetic, similar kind of like it from an outside perspective. It looks like this is all the same. You've got all these different kind of like blue gods.
Oh yeah, but it's all completely
Yeah.
You know. In fact, it's a good going to India is a good way to see how how interfaith can be.
Yeah.
You know, because in India you take it for granted that you almost think it is all, you know, they're all doing the same thing just because they're so in harmony with each other, you know. But they all have, you know, different deities, different ideas of perfection, different ways they practice in order to attain that perfection. But they all live in, generally, they all live in harmony with each other, sort of thing. So then, the Vedas, you have something called the Vedanta Sutra, which are these, you know, the big Vedic literatures compact into smaller sort of phrases, and then all the great professors of spiritual science write a commentary on these things, you know.
But people generally think that Shankaracharya is the only commentary. I guess is what the point is here.
It's what Prabhupada is saying. Sankaracharya is like you know, it's the most widely known one.
And is he that one of the impersonalists?
Yeah, he was teaching a certain aspect of the Vedic philosophy, but it's not. So what is actually sort of accepted is Sankaracharya's commentary in the Vedanta Sutra is probably the most widely distributed, but it's not the most correct.
Okay.
You know, like it's not quite complete, and Sankaracharya himself admits that. You know, especially when he was dying, he admitted that quite frankly. But yeah, so I'm trying to think, like, an example is like if you have some widespread, you know, like I guess it goes back to the social media thing. So just because something's distributed widely, doesn't make it the most accurate, sort of thing. So it's something that it's just to be aware of as we go deeper and deeper into these spiritual literatures, that just because it's the most widely broadcast doesn't make it the most accurate. So like just by typing something in on Google, for example, doesn't mean you get the most accurate answer.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
It's an answer, but it's not. It might not necessarily be the answer, you know.
Yeah.
So there are many Vedanta commentaries, but because Vaishnavas did not present the first Vedanta commentary, people are under the wrong impression that Sankaracharya is the only Vedanta commentary. So, besides that, Vyasadeva himself wrote the perfect Vedanta commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the first words of the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadi Asya Yataha. And that Janmadi Asya Yata is fully explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vedanta Sutra simply hints at what is Brahman, the absolute truth. The absolute truth is that from whom everything emanates. This is a summary, but is explained in detail in Srimad Bhagavatam. If everything is emanating from the absolute truth, then what is the nature of the absolute truth? This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so it's kind of saying like, I guess, Bhagavan is like the seed of all existence, or the source of all existence. But the Srimad Bhagavatam goes into detail of what that seed actually is, or the qualities of that. Am I wrong? Probably.
Well, it talks about what Brahman is, and it said the Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is like the most, one of the most sort of sweet and authoritative literatures on spiritual, on Brahman, on Krishna, sort of thing. So it's saying like it is technical. It is a technical part. So basically, Srila Vyasadeva wrote down this Vedic spiritual knowledge that was previously only spoken. So he was the author of the Vedanta Sutra, which he wrote. Then he wrote an explanation of that called Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very easily digestible, sort of thing. It's the creme de la creme. It's the cream of the cream, sort of thing. So it's like, I don't know, like if you want to get a book on Star Wars that tells you everything about the Star Wars universe, then what's his name who did Star Wars?
Lucas, is it? David?
George Lucas.
George
yeah.
Lucas.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
if you get a book that's by George Lucas, like they have the official,
Yeah.
the official annual, the official Beano annual sort of thing. So if you get the official one, okay, this is by the author. This is bona fide. So similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam is the bona fide official commentary on the Vedas. But as it now,
I like this next sentence.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, so it says the absolute truth must be consciousness.
Yeah.
He is self-effulgent, Svarat. We develop our consciousness and knowledge by receiving knowledge from others, but for him it is said that he is self-effulgent. So this is the very important point. The source of everything is conscious. Don't overlook consciousness. It's the most important thing in the world.
Yeah, because I guess it's like the standard explanation of the creation of the universe you get in school is that like there's a big bang and everything emanated from this like point, but it's saying that the source of that is conscious, right?
Yeah, because if you just see one part of the picture, which is you're seeing all these sort of this big domino effect, this chain reaction that's manifested the world around us, that does not account for consciousness.
Yeah.
That doesn't account for what consciousness is. The consciousness isn't in that picture.
Yeah.
And it's admitted by biologists, neuroscientists, physicists that they can't account for this consciousness problem. It's what happens. At some point of material complexity, then pop, you get this other thing that's all of a sudden not just matter anymore, but it's an experience of matter.
Yeah.
So this sort of the Krishna paradigm is going further and saying not only is there something that kicks off the whole material reaction, but there's something that is also the source of all elements of consciousness and life in this world. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Charlie?
Can I?
Okay, go on, Ben. Are we going to... Oh, let's finish
Yeah,
it.
we're here.
At the end,
We've almost made it through the introduction.
This is some technical points.
Yeah. So we've talked about how that absolute truth is self-effulgent. So we develop our consciousness and knowledge by receiving knowledge from others, but for him it is said that he is self-effulgent. The whole summary of Vedic knowledge is that Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is explained by the writer himself in Srimad Bhagavatam.
The official
Beano.
Exactly, yeah, the official annual, the official commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam.
So we finally request those who are actually after Vedic knowledge to try to understand the explanation of all Vedic knowledge from Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita.
Right, so that was the introduction.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's really cool. So I guess, because, yeah, I think we probably could call it a day there, right?
I think that's a good place to stop, yeah. Anyone who's... I mean, there's
some proper technical stuff.
very technical stuff, but it goes to show, that was just the introduction to get us to understand the sort of, perspective about where this Vedic knowledge is coming from.
Yeah.
And it's very, it's very good, It's not like, these are things that, people who have to do, university degrees in Sanskrit and stuff, they should.
I think it goes to show as well, because we were reading this out and discussing it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'm hearing the technical stuff, and I'm sure people who are listening are hearing these different names and stuff. But being able to ask questions unlocks it. So, before we were talking about how, if someone's blind, but their friend can see, they can ask, how do I get to Swansea? We gave that example. This is similar, like, I can ask you, who's a bit further along the path, to explain what these things mean. So it goes to show the importance of discussing these things, because I'm sure if you just get this book and start reading it, you might get put off by all of this technical stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, this was the first book I said before. This was the first book I read in terms of the amount of sort of the spiritual literature I've read now is quite hefty. Quite vast. Probably. But even like some of these terms might be a little bit alien. Still, it had a profound effect on my heart. When I start, because now we're starting to get into the invocation, the mantras. These are the original. Next episode we'll get really into the original Sanskrit mantras
Yeah.
that are thousands of years old, and you can see the way they deal with psychology and spirituality is so relevant today, and it really hits you hard. Like, wow, whoever spoke, and I'm not sure who spoke Sri Upanishad originally. Not sure who the original author is. It's quite interesting, but you can wow, these are sages speaking to us from a time, an ancient time, where people were much more advanced spiritually, and they're handing this down to to our generation now. You know, we should definitely take advantage. Does that make sense?
Sounds very exciting. I can't wait to jump into the invocation next week.
Yeah, and then anyone who's interested, let them know. I'll see how the Alexander technique goes. Like,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that my shoulders? Oh.
You need like a deep tissue massage, I reckon.
I don't know though. The Alexander technique, people say like a deep tissue massage. He said, one of the teachers said that's like putting a band-aid, like a plaster on a gaping wound, something like that. You know, because it's just like a quick fix. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, it helps to understand that. You know, I've got a bod. My body is sort of, you know, it's definitely a machine. You know, with pulleys and like, you know, joints and things. You know,
Yeah.
so it's
Every now and then you got to take it to the garage.
exactly. I got to take it to the garage, have its MOT and service and stuff, and then carry on.
There we are.
Okay.
On that bombshell.
Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We'll start the invocation next week. If you've lasted this long, again, you've done really well.
Get a medal in the post.
Okay, yeah. Is that it, Charlie?
Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.